Study section 6. Vision 2. Color vision. Introduction. Color plays a key role in our appreciation of beauty in art, nature, and people. One way to tell whether an apple is ripe is to look at its color. Certain colors are associated with objects or feelings. Yellow is associated with madness, sickness, and fear, and a reddish purple with liveliness. Herrera, 1983. This lecture enables students to understand, among others, that color is not just a luxury feature of vision. For one thing, color helps us make the fundamental distinction between shadows that are cast by objects versus variation in how light is reflected from objects. Kingdom et al. 2004. Objectives. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to 1. Explain color vision. 2. Describe the variability of color. And 3. Identify visual problems. Contents. Color vary in 3 separate ways. Who? Different wavelengths of light produce sensations of different colors. This aspect of color is called hue. Saturation. The purity of the input produces the perception of saturation, that is, how deep the color appears. Lightness. The amplitude of the light waves produces the perception of lightness or brightness, that is, how much light is present. Different combinations of verbs on these 3 dimensions produce the incredible rich palette of human color vision, which is more varied than that used by any painter. Color arises through the operation of 2 distinct types of processes. Color mixing. Observation reported by Young and Helmholtz in the 19th century focused on the phenomena such as the mixing of colors to produce new colors. For example, mixing yellow and blue paint produces green. These researchers believe that the brain registers color by combining responses to separate wavelengths. In particular, they argue that the eye contains 3 kinds of color sensors, and each most sensitive to a particular range of wavelengths, which could be long, medium, or short. This view was therefore called the trichromatic theory of color vision. Trichromatic theory of color vision. This is the theory that color vision arises from the combination of neural impulses from 3 different kinds of sensors, each of which responds maximally to a different wavelength. A color tug of war. Erwin Edward, a German physician in the 20th century, noticed that some colors cannot be mixed. For example, you can't make reddish green, it becomes mud, or yellowish blue, it becomes green. These and similar observations led Erwin to develop the opponent process theory of color vision. The opponent process theory of color vision. This theory proposed that if color is present, it causes cells that register it to inhibit the perception of the complementary color, such as red versus green. After image. This is the image left behind by a previous perception. An after image occurs when one member of a pair of opponent cells inhabits the other. For example, green inhabits red and then releases it. In the process, the previously inhabited hue, red, temporarily overshoots the marks, creating an after image. Opponent cells. These are cells that put the color in a pair, most notably blue or yellow, or red or green, against each other. When you gaze at the lovely green line, for example, your opponent's cells are making it difficult for you to see the red of a delicious apple. This is the sort of effect Erin predicted. This opponent's process helps you to distinguish among colors that have similar wavelengths, such as green and yellow. This mechanism explains why you can't see greenish red or yellowish blue. Seeing one member of a pair inhibits seeing the other. It also explains why you see after images. Color blindness. This is an inability, either acquired by brain damage or inherited, to perceive certain hues. People who have color blindness are either unable to distinguish two or more hues from each other, or in a more serious cases, unable to see hue at all. Most color blindness is present from birth. Rather than being completely insensitive to hue, most color blind people are unable to distinguish red from green. Researchers have identified specific genes that lead to color blindness. Taneb et al. 2001. Some people only become colorblind after a particular part of their brain is damaged. Visual problems. The visual system is so complicated and it does not always work perfectly. It is estimated that less than a third of the world's population has perfect vision. Seulin, 1986. The problems in the visual system affect both absolute and relative thresholds and can also distort the stimuli reaching the retina. Visual activity problem. This includes myopia, hypermetropia, and astigmatism. Myopia. This is also referred to as nearsightedness. It causes people to have difficulty in focusing on distant objects. Myopia is caused by an eyeball that is too long to focus the image on the retina properly. In the United States, this problem affects 1 in 5 people. Myopia can be corrected by external lenses, either eyeglasses or contact lenses that focus the image correctly on the retina. Laser surgery can be used to correct the lens of the eye itself. Time spent reading is correlated with myopia. Young, 1981. But remember that correlation does not imply causation. Hypermetropia. This is also referred to as farsightedness. Hypermetropia causes people to have difficulty in focusing on near objects, such as farsightedness usually results from an eyeball that is too short or a lens that is too thin. To allow the image to focus on the retina properly, it is possible to be nearsightedness in one eye and be farsightedness in the other. Astigmatism. This is a defect in the curvature of the cornea or lens, causing blurriness. Astigmatism, like nearsightedness or farsightedness, can be corrected with eyeglasses and sometimes with contact lenses. Cataract. This is a cloudy part of the lens of the eye, which can cause serious visual problems, including blurred vision, distorted images, sensitivity to light and glare, and outright blindness. Cogden et al. 2003. About 70% of Americans over 75 years have or have had a cataract. Cataracts are responsible for at least half of all incidents of blindness. Riordan Ever, 1992. Surgery can correct cataract by removing the lens and replacing it with a substitute lens. Macular degeneration. The macula is a small region surrounding and including the fovea. We are unable to see objects with high resolution in the center of the visual field, courtesy of receptors in the macula, Smoking not only can cause cataract, but can also cause the macula to degenerate. This causes irreversible blindness in the center of the visual field. De Black, 2003. Kelly et al., 2004. Amblyopia. Lazy eye or amblyopia occurs when one eye cannot focus on objects. In a patient with untreated amblyopia, if left untreated, the brain will learn to ignore the input from the less functional eye. Binocular depth perception will be permanently lost. Blindness. Blindness or total loss of vision can occur as a result of damage at many levels. Damage to the eye or optic nerves could prevent input to normally functioning visual cortical areas. If the cortical systems are still operating properly, treatments that improve input may restore some vision. Other individuals are blind due to cortical damage. In these cases, the patient may have a scotoma or region of blindness that will depend on the location and amount of cortical damage. Visual agnosias. These are disorders in which a person can see a stimulus but has difficulty recognizing what is seen. The word agnosia comes from the Greek for without knowledge. Prosopagnosia. In prosopagnosia, vision is retained, but the person cannot recognize the faces of people he or she knows. Soaks, 1985. Patients with prosopagnosia can tell one face apart from another and can tell the gender of the people from pictures of their faces. In spite of these skills, these patients can recognize these faces as people that they know, not even their own image in the mirror. The fusiform face area is probably responsible for facial recognition. Prosopagnosia is usually associated with damage in this area. Visual perception. We can divide the steps of visual perception in two phases. In phase 1, the outputs from sensory processing are organized. In phase 2, these organized units are recognized and identified. Perceptual organization. In perception, separating figures from ground involves organizing regions into shapes that are likely to correspond to objects or their parts. A critical part of this process is taking fragmentary outputs from sensory processing and organizing them into edges. Figures. In perception, figures are a set of characteristics such as shape, color, and texture that corresponds to an object. Ground. In perception, a ground is the background which must be distinguished in order to pick out figures. Gestalt psychologists discovered a set of laws that describe how the brain organizes the input from the eyes. Kofikal, 1935. Weitmar, 1923. Gestalt laws of organization. This comprises a set of rules describing the circumstances such as proximity, good continuation, similarity, closure, and good form under which marks will be grouped into perception units. Proximity. Marks that are near one another tends to be grouped together. For example, we see XSX, SSS as two groups and SS, SS, SS as three groups, even though both sets have the same total number of X marks. Continuity. This is also called good continuation. Marks that fall along a smooth curve or a straight line tend to be grouped together, so we see as a single line and not four separate dashes. And we see dash, 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 dash as two separate lines because all 8 of the dashes do not fall on the same plane. Similarity. Marks that look alike tend to be grouped together. For example, we see SSS, SSS as two groups, whether the elements are the same or of different colors also affects similarity. This is another reason color vision is so important. Closure. We tend to close any gaps in a figure so a circle with a small section missing will still be seen as a circle. Good form. Marks that form a single shape tends to be grouped together. For example, we see as a single shape but not. Ambiguous figure. Sometimes a figure can be organized and perceived in more than one way. Perceptual constancy. This is a perception of characteristics, and it occurs when an object or quality, such as shape or color, looks the same, even though the sensory information striking the eye changes. Objects in the world appear to keep their shapes, their sizes, their colors, and so on, even when you view them in very different positions or circumstances. Size constancy. This occurs when you see an object, such as a car, as maintaining the same actual size even when seen at different distances, and its image has different sizes. Shape constancy. This occurs when you see an object as the same shape even when you view it from different angles. Color constancy occurs when you see colors as constant, green as green, red as red, even when the lighting changes. Color constancy arises in part because of experience. Color contrast. Perception does not occur in vacuum. In the case of color contrast, colors can't look very different depending on their context. Color contrast is primarily an effect of the of color processing in the visual system. Color contrast refers to the fact that colors can look different depending on the surrounding colors. The perception of depth. The visual system uses a number of cues to provide a sense of depth. Several of these cues are monocular, requiring the use of only one eye. We also have binocular, two eyes depth, cues that are more effective. When eyes face front, as in humans and other predatory species, the two eyes produce overlapping but slightly different images of the visual field. Retinal disparity. This represents the slightly different views of the visual field provided by the two eyes. In other words, the differences between the images projected onto the retinas of both eyes result in retinal disparity, because retinal disparity increases with distance of the objects from the viewer. We can use the degree of disparity as a strong cue for depth. Binocular cells. These are cells in the cortex that respond to input from both eyes. Binocular cells respond most vigorously when both eyes are looking at the same features of a visual stimulus. Hubel and Wiesel, 1962. Binocular cells also respond to degree of retinal disparity. Some cells fire more when their preferred features appear to be an identical distance. Others fire more when the preferred features are seen by different parts of the two eyes. These features are known as disparity selective cells. Disparity selective cells. These are binocular cortical cells that respond when their preferred features are seen by different parts of the two eyes. Summary. 1. Visual perception is not accomplished in one fell swoop, but in two broad phases. 2. First, visual sensations are evoked by an object or event. 3. Second, you actually perceive the stimulus. 4. Structurally, the two eyes are separate but unlike the ears. Some of their activities are coordinated so that they function as a pair. 5. Light enters the pupil and stimulates the nerve ending in the retina. It is then absorbed by the choroids. 6. The eye converts the electromagnetic energy that is light into the nerve impulses. This conversion process is called transduction. 7. Dark adaptation is the process whereby exposure of darkness causes the eyes to become sensitive, allowing for better vision in the dark. 8. The opponent process theory of color vision proposes that if color is present, it causes cells that register it to inhibit the perception of the complementary color. End of study section 6. Thanks for listening.